My name is Yasmin. I'm 50 years old. I was born in New Jersey, raised in a strict Muslim home. My parents were from Saudi Arabia, and Islam wasn't just our religion. It was our identity, our culture, our way of life. I memorized Quran verses before I could even write my own name. My father made sure we prayed 5 times a day, even when we were sick or tired. My mother taught me how to cover myself, how to be quiet, obedient, and pure. We didn't watch American TV shows. We didn't eat at restaurants that weren't halal. We didn't speak to non-Muslims unless necessary. I grew up believing that Islam was the one true religion. I married a Muslim man when I was 24. We had 4 children together. He was not abusive, but he was extremely strict. In our house there was no music, no laughter, no freedom, just prayer, Quran, and discipline. I tried my best to be a good Muslim wife and mother. I wore the hijab and later even the niqab. I fasted extra days outside of Ramadan. I studied hadiths. I listened to Islamic lectures for hours every day. But deep inside, I felt empty. I couldn't say it out loud, not even to myself. But I was spiritually dry. I followed all the rules, but I never felt close to Allah. I begged Him to speak to me, to touch my heart, to give me peace, but there was only silence. I thought something was wrong with me. Maybe I wasn't trying hard enough. So I tried harder. I isolated myself even more. I stopped talking to anyone who wasn't religious. I became cold, dead inside, but I kept smiling on the outside. Then in early 2024, my husband gave me a gift, a trip to Saudi Arabia for Umrah. I cried. This was supposed to be the highlight of my life. A chance to visit Mecca, the holiest place on earth. I believed that if anything could fix the emptiness in my soul, it would be that trip. But what I found in Mecca was not peace. It was fear. From the moment we arrived in Saudi Arabia, I felt a strange weight on me. Not spiritual power, something else. Something dark. Something heavy. I couldn't explain it. I thought maybe I was just nervous or tired. In Mecca, I saw the Kaaba with my own eyes. Millions of people surrounding it, chanting, crying, pushing, reaching. It was intense. But instead of feeling awe or connection, I felt panic. I couldn't breathe. I kept forcing myself to pray to keep up with the rituals, but nothing worked. On the 3rd night, everything changed. That night, I had a dream. In the dream, I was standing in the desert alone. There was no sound, no wind, just stillness. Then I saw the Kaaba. It was shaking, then burning. Flames covered it. The black cloth turned into ash. I screamed in the dream. I didn't know what was happening. Then I heard a voice. A man's voice, calm, powerful, loving. He said, "Yasmin, why are you walking in darkness?" I turned and there he was, a man dressed in white, glowing. His face was gentle but full of authority. His eyes looked straight into my soul. He said, "Come to me and I will give you rest." I woke up gasping. My heart was pounding. My body was drenched in sweat. My husband asked what happened. I told him it was just a bad dream, but I knew it wasn't just a dream. The next day, I stayed outside the Grand Mosque while my husband went in. I couldn't bring myself to enter. I felt afraid. I sat on a bench staring at the ground trying to calm my thoughts. Then a woman in full black ayah sat next to me. She whispered, "You had the dream, didn't you?" I looked up in shock. "What? What dream?" I asked. "The man in white," she said quietly. "He spoke to you." I froze. She leaned closer and said, "He's calling you. His name is Isa." My throat went dry. "You mean Prophet Isa?" I asked. She shook her head. "Not just a prophet. He's the Son of God, the light of the world." I stood up and walked away. I was shaking. How did she know? Why did I dream of that man? Why did I feel so torn? When we returned to the US, I couldn't go back to my old life. I tried to pray, but the words felt hollow. I opened the Quran, but my heart felt cold. I started watching videos secretly, stories of Muslims who had dreams about Jesus. Every testimony was like mine. A man in white, a voice calling them, a feeling of love and light. Then I downloaded a Bible on my phone. One verse caught my eye. It said, Come to me all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11 verse 28. I started crying. That was exactly what the man in my dream said to me. That night, I fell on my knees and whispered, Jesus, if that was you, I want to know you. Please show me the truth. That night, I had another dream. The same man appeared. He walked toward me and simply said, You are mine. The next morning, I knew. I couldn't deny it anymore. I believed. I gave my heart to Jesus. But when I told my husband, all hell broke loose. He shouted at me, called me a traitor and infidel. He slapped me and said I had brought shame on our family. My children were confused. My relatives were furious. My cousin from Chicago called me and said, You know the punishment. Don't think we'll let this go. Someone's spray painted the word apostate on my front door. I lost my marriage. I lost my children. I lost my entire community. But I found Jesus. And I found peace for the first time in my life. This is just the beginning. In the next few minutes, I will tell you how I survived a deadly attack, how God spoke to me in the darkest moment of my life, and how my story is bringing others to Christ. When I gave my life to Jesus, I thought things would get better. I thought I would finally have peace, love, and acceptance. And in a spiritual way, I did. But in the physical world, I walked straight into fire. Within days of telling my husband that I had become a Christian, he packed his bags and left. He told our children that their mother had become a devil worshiper. He warned them to stay away from me. My 2 older sons blocked my number. My youngest daughter, Isla, just cried. She kept asking me, Mom, why would you leave Islam? What did we do wrong? I tried to explain. I tried to tell her about my dream, about Jesus, about the peace I had now. But she couldn't understand. She had been raised just like I had been. She saw me as a traitor. My brother flew in from Chicago. He didn't come to visit. He came to threaten me. He stood in my kitchen and shouted, Do you know what the punishment is for what you've done? You're lucky we're in America. If this was back home, you'd already be dead. I said, Nothing. He said, You've lost your mind. You think a man can be God. You're being fooled by Western lies. I told him, No, I'm not fooled. For the first time in my life, I can see clearly. That made him angrier. He stormed out of my house. 2 hours later, someone threw a rock through my front window. A note was tied to it. It said, Repent and return to Islam or die. I called the police. They filed a report, but said they couldn't do much without evidence. They advised me to move or stay with someone, but I had nowhere to go. My husband had taken all the money. My children were silent. My family had abandoned me. My Muslim friends blocked me. My house was no longer safe. I felt alone, but I wasn't. Jesus was with me. I remember kneeling in the middle of my cold, broken living room, glass everywhere, and praying, Lord, I don't know what to do. I don't have anyone left. Please help me. That night, I had another dream. In the dream, I was standing in a storm. Rain was pouring, thunder was crashing, the wind pushed me back, and I couldn't move forward. Then I saw Jesus. He walked toward me in the middle of the storm and stretched out his hand. I took it, and as soon as I did, the storm stopped. The wind, the rain, the thunder gone. He looked at me and said, Do not be afraid, Yasmin. I am with you. I woke up crying again. I knew he was real. I knew I wasn't alone, but I still had to survive. The next few weeks were the hardest of my life. I had no job, no help. I was living off the little savings I had. I started watching sermons online. I found a few Christian channels and testimonies of former Muslims. Their stories gave me strength. I knew I wasn't the only one, but I was still afraid. Every knock on the door made my heart jump. Every car that passed by at night made me wonder if someone was watching. And then it happened. One evening around 9:00 p.m., I heard a knock at the door. It was soft, careful, almost secret. I peeked through the curtain. It was my cousin Farid, the one who used to play with me as a child. He had always been quiet, calm, respectful. But this time, something about him felt off. I didn't open the door. He knocked again. Yasmin, he said, it's me. I just want to talk. I opened the door slightly, keeping the chain locked. He smiled. I heard what happened. I just want to help you, he said. But there was something behind his smile. Something cold. No, thank you, I replied. I'm fine. Please, he insisted. Let me come in. We're family. That's when I felt it. Something told me, do not open the door. I closed the door without another word and locked it. 10 minutes later, I looked outside again. Farid was gone. But the next morning, I found a knife on my doorstep. I called the police again. They told me they would send patrols around the neighborhood, but I knew what this meant. They were trying to scare me into silence. But I would not be silent. I decided to search for a church, a real physical church. I needed fellowship. I needed help. I drove 45 minutes outside my city to a church I had found online that said they welcomed people from Muslim backgrounds. I walked in during a small Bible study. Everyone turned to look at me. I was still wearing a long coat and scarf. I looked nervous. I almost turned around and left, but an older woman stood up, walked to me, and said, "You're safe here." She led me to a chair. I sat down and listened. They were reading the Gospel of John. When someone read out loud, "And the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." I started crying. The woman next to me put her hand on mine. After the study, I told them my story. They listened. They cried with me. They prayed for me. That day, I felt something I had never felt before. Family. A few days later, the pastor came to my home. He brought groceries. He helped me fix the broken window. His wife gave me her number and told me to call anytime. They became the parents I never had. Through that church, I got a job at a local Christian-owned bakery. It didn't pay much, but it was enough. I worked early mornings. I cleaned. I served. I smiled. For the first time in months, I felt alive. But the threats didn't stop. One night, after leaving the bakery, a car followed me home. I drove in circles, took side streets, tried to lose them. I finally pulled into a gas station and called the police. They never caught the car, but I knew it was someone from my past. They wanted to silence me, but they couldn't because Jesus was now my protector. And not just that, he began to use my story. One day, a young woman came to the bakery and whispered, "Are you Yasmin?" I nodded. She said, "I saw your testimony online. I'm Muslim. I've been having dreams too. I think Jesus is calling me." Tears filled my eyes. We sat down that night after work. I told her everything. I prayed with her. She gave her life to Jesus right there in my car. That was the beginning of something new. God was using my pain for his purpose. My suffering was not wasted. The enemy tried to destroy me, but Jesus turned my ashes into beauty. And that's not the end. By this time, I was living a new life, working at a bakery, attending church, slowly building something from the ashes of everything I had lost. But the past was still chasing me. The threats kept coming, though more quietly. I stopped answering unknown calls. I watched my back every time I went out. I changed my locks. I didn't walk alone at night. I never let my guard down. But inside, something had changed. I was no longer ruled by fear. I had peace. The kind of peace that doesn't make sense. Peace that stays even when the storm is still raging. Peace that held me every night when I cried alone. That peace was Jesus. Still, I had one deep wound that hadn't healed my children. Months had passed since they stopped speaking to me. I would send text messages to them. Just a simple "I love you" or "I'm praying for you." Most of the time there was no reply. Sometimes they just wrote one word, "Stop." That broke my heart more than anything. One day, I decided to do something bold. I drove to the house where my ex-husband and kids were now living. I stood across the street for over an hour just watching. I saw my daughter come outside to throw out trash. I saw my sons walk past the windows. They looked so grown, so distant. I finally got the courage to walk up and knock. My heart was pounding. When the door opened, it was my oldest son, Adil. He froze when he saw me. "Mom," he said. I nodded. "I don't want to fight. I just want to see you, all of you, just for a few minutes." He didn't answer. Then he slowly opened the door wider and let me in. When I walked inside, I saw all 4 of my children sitting in the living room. My ex-husband wasn't home. They stared at me like I was a stranger. I stood in the center of the room and said, "I know you don't understand why I left Islam. I know you feel betrayed, but I want you to hear me, not with anger, just as your mother. The woman who carried you, fed you, raised you, loved you." My voice was shaking. "I didn't leave Islam to hurt you. I left because the truth found me. I didn't go looking for it. I didn't ask for dreams or voices. But Jesus came to me, and I could not deny him. He gave me a peace I never had in 50 years of Islam." There was silence. My second son Khalid spoke up. "Do you really believe he's God?" I said with all my heart. Then he asked a man who died on a cross. "That makes no sense." I said it didn't make sense to me at first either. But it's not about logic. It's about love. He gave his life for me, for you. For all of us. My daughter had tears in her eyes. She didn't speak, but I saw something soften in her. I gave them each a Bible. I told them I wouldn't pressure them. I just wanted them to read it one day, even just one page, and ask God for the truth. Then I left. I cried all the way home. I didn't know what would happen next. But I had obeyed what God told me to do. Speak truth and love. 2 weeks later, my daughter messaged me. She said, "Mom, I started reading the book of Matthew." That was all, but it was enough to give me hope. A few months later, something else happened, something I still can't fully explain. I was in bed praying quietly. It was a calm evening, nothing unusual. Then suddenly my room filled with light, bright white light, but not blinding. It was warm, gentle, strong. I looked up and saw a figure standing at the foot of my bed. It was him, Jesus. He didn't speak out loud, but I heard his voice in my spirit. He said, "I will never leave you. What was taken from you, I will restore. What was meant for evil, I will use for good." I wept. I reached out my hand toward him, and the light faded gently. The room became quiet again. But I felt like fire was burning in my chest. Not pain, but life, power, love. I knew he had come to remind me that he was still writing my story. Not long after that, my church asked me to share my testimony on video. I was scared. I didn't want to cause more trouble, but God whispered to my heart, "This story is not just for you. It's for the world." So I did it. I sat down in front of a camera and told everything, the dreams, the fear, the threats, the peace I found in Christ. That video was shared around the world. Thousands watched it. People I'd never met messaged me. Some were angry. Some cursed me. Some called me a liar. But others said, "I had the same dream." Or, "I've been afraid to leave Islam. Your story gave me courage." Some even said, "I gave my life to Jesus after watching this." I couldn't believe it. God was using my pain to reach others. He took what was meant to destroy me and turned it into a testimony. And now, 2 years later, I'm still following Jesus. I still have no relationship with some of my family. I still get threats. I still live carefully, but I have no fear because the one who walks with me is greater than anything this world can throw at me. He saved me. He kept me. He loved me when no one else did. If you're listening to this right now and you're a Muslim who feels the same emptiness I once felt, I want to tell you something. There is a way out. There is a truth greater than what you were taught. There is a Savior who loves you, not because of what you do, but because of who he is. His name is Jesus. Call out to him, even in a whisper, and he will answer. Thank you for listening to my story. Please comment below where you're watching from. I would love to pray for you. And never forget, when everyone walks away, Jesus walks in. He did it for me. He'll do it for you too.